Right at the start, let me show you something that happened during testing. The first time in my life I've needed recovery in sand. Now I'm blaming the car for this one, and I'll explain exactly why when we get to the beach driving section. But first, let me walk you through what this hybrid ute is actually about and whether it lives up to the claims. Hey guys, Stefan Fischer here from Olaf Road. I hope you guys are well. I'm just walking here through Merrickville on the way to picking up a GWM Canon Alpha hybrid ute. GWM, or their marketing firm, contacted me twice actually. The first time I ignored it, but the second time I thought, oh, give it a go. And yeah, they offered me one of their Canon utes for 4 days. It has double diff locks, front and rear. So on paper, it really should be a good thing. And the terms were agreeable to me because I can say what I want. They're after an honest review. And if you follow my channel, you know that's what you will get. So let's pick up the ute and see how good it is. Right. Let's get one thing straight from the start. GWM provided these Canon Alpha PHEV free of charge for 2 full days. But what you're about to hear are my own observations and experiences during my time with the GWM on and off-road. Also to clarify, if you follow my channel, you know I'm not a car journalist or professional vehicle reviewer. I'm a four-wheel driver trainer, and someone who spends considerable time in remote country. So that's the lens I'm looking through. When I collected this vehicle, there was no handover briefing, no walkthrough of features, nothing. I literally picked up the keys and headed straight out for testing. Given the limited time, with a new vehicle and a new technology I'd never used before, there's a fair chance some of the issues I encountered were user errors on my part. I did my best to figure things out as I went, but I'm showing you exactly what I experienced in real time, warts and all. If I got something wrong or missed a feature, that's on me and the limited time available. This isn't an exhaustive review covering every specification and feature. Instead, these are my first impressions, focusing on the aspects that matter most to someone who may consider a GWM for general four-wheel driving and touring. I tested that I could in the time I had, and I'm sharing those experiences. Let me give you the technical rundown of the Canon Alpha. The powertrain combines a 2-liter turbo petrol engine with a 120 kilowatt electric motor. Combined output is 300 kilowatts and 750 newton meters of torque. The battery pack is 37.1 kilowatt hours, which is larger than most plug-in hybrids. The four-wheel drive system uses a Borg-Warner transfer case, the same supplier that makes transfer cases for plenty of established manufacturers. It has proper low-range gearing with a 2.64 to 1 reduction ratio and mechanical locking differentials front, rear and center. You've also got traction control working alongside those diff locks. The system maintains four-wheel drive capability even when running on electric power alone. Towing capacity is rated at 3,500 kilograms, braked with a payload capacity of 685 kilograms. Worth noting that when you're actually towing that 3.5-ton van, the ball weight will eat into that 685 kilogram payload significantly. A typical 3.5-ton caravan puts around 300 to 350 kilograms on the tow ball, leaving you roughly 300 kilograms for passengers and gear. Wading depth is claimed at 800 millimeters, with ground clearance at 224 millimeters. The approach angle is 28.5 degrees, the departure angle 23 degrees, and the breakover or ramp over angle is 19 degrees. The electric-only range is rated at 110 kilometers under NEDC testing conditions. Real world will be less. The vehicle-to-load function provides 3.3 kilowatts of 240 volt AC power through a standard outlet. That's enough to run most camp equipment or power tools. DC fast charging takes the battery from 30 to 80% in 26 minutes on a 50 kilowatt charger. AC charging takes about 6.5 hours for a full charge. The curb weight is 2,810 kilograms, so it's carrying about 400 kilograms more than a standard diesel variant. As for comfort features, there's very little this thing doesn't have. Air-conditioned and heated seats, including a driver's massage function, heated steering wheel, and pretty much every driver assistance feature you can think of. The good news is you can disable and adjust most of these systems if they get in your way. GWM backs this with an 8-year unlimited kilometer battery pack warranty, 7-year unlimited kilometer vehicle warranty, 7-year roadside assist, and 7-year capped price servicing. That's more comprehensive coverage than most manufacturers offer. The fuel consumption figure of 1.7 liters per 100 kilometers is a laboratory result that assumes you're keeping the battery charged. A real-world touring consumption will be higher. What you're getting is a conventional four-wheel drive system with electric assistance, rather than an economy-focused hybrid that happens to have four-wheel drive. So I'm on my way to Solve Off-Road. I'm just going to pull in there in a second. And then we're going to put the Canon on the hoist, have a look underneath. And I have a quick chat to Nick Finch from Solve Off-Road. What he thinks about modifiability, for example, suspension upgrade, a GWM upgrade, which you really will need if you want to take this as a tourer. Geez, that's a big diff.
That's a big diff.
Jeez.
The yoke looks big. That's to handle the electric, the high amount of torque from the electric motor. It's all no drive class stuff in there. Got a bit of size to it. Here's all our fancy electrical forward dump.
Yeah, but unlike the Grenadier, nothing hangs super low.
Solid rear axle.
Yeah.
So that's nice and simple. It's basically, it's not, but if people thought of it as similar to a Prado rear end, you pretty much deal with a Prado rear end.
Want to give me a little idea what you think?
Oh, I think we're a Toyota. Yeah, it's got some similarities. Same sort of strut, sort of setup. That's all very similar. Obviously, it's going to be its own thing, but it's got the similar layout and construction to your Hiluxes and your Prados. That rear end is very similar to a Prado. The shock position is pretty much the same. The geometry looks almost identical. So that's a good thing. That's
bigger diff.
Well, yeah, I think it's got the big diff, and we're seeing that in a lot of cars now. Even the later model Toyotas with bigger GWM, they're a bit bigger car. The diff size is stepping up. So yeah, I think they're dealing with high torque from the motor because it's electric torque, which is high torque down low, like it's permanently there. So I think the rear diff's got to be able to cop that, which is cool. I mean, that's not a bad thing. There's not a lot of low hanging stuff, like that crossmember drops a bit, but from there, this is all coverable, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty easy. I would want something. We're talking about plastic sumps here and stuff, so you'd want some protection, but not hard to do. Nothing's ridiculously hanging or protruding down. And it's the same through here. Transfer case is in a good position. Everything else is staying the same as, you know what I mean, as that crossmember. So nothing funky, which is kind of cool. That's pretty lightweight, so that'll cop a bit of a hiding if you actually use it off-road, which sounds like you can. And the rear end, solid rear axle, which we always like to see. So, and I think it's a good simple geometry setup. We should be able to do a 2-inch lift in that without too much of an issue.
Yep. Drive shafts are pretty beefy, yeah?
No, they're solid. Like I said, you want to pop one front wheel off and let's see what's underneath. Oh, that's light. It's a Toyota. I mean, yeah, I think we're looking at, we could definitely build something for this, for sure. Yeah, it's a pretty conventional strut, 3-bolt top plate and all that sort of stuff. So anything too complicated. Got a good amount of space in there. It doesn't look like, it's not overly restrictive, like the top arm isn't short, it isn't coming across anything, so I think it's good. If you want to keep it simple and conventional to some extent, solid rear end, pretty much a Toyota-esque looking thing underneath. I think it's a pretty safe bet. This is going to be solid platform. And they're going to be solid platform for a while because the other vehicles have been built like this for a long time and they work. You know, a proper low range transfer case. Not a big transfer, like that's a big transfer case under there. I think they haven't stuffed around. They've just gone, what works, what's conventional, what do we know is going to be all right and suit that market. Oh, this does it. Yeah, so.
I noticed in some earlier reviews that the spare tyre was simply lying loose in the tub. The issue is that the hybrid battery pack takes up the space where the spare would normally mount underneath the chassis. GWM has addressed this by mounting the spare on the side of the tub, rather than leaving it rattling around loose. The GWM Canon Alpha is equipped with a comprehensive 360-degree camera system, delivering a clear bird's eye view and multiple selectable camera angles on the large 14.6-inch touchscreen. The reverse camera activates automatically, providing high-resolution visuals and dynamic guidelines to help you maneuver in tight spaces. There's also a transparent chassis view to spot hidden obstacles beneath the vehicle, as well as front and rear parking sensors for added confidence. And at the moment here it's tar, but fairly rough road driving, really nice. Here's some bumps and potholes, handles is very nice. Body roll feels very good. Dean also from the back set. Car hardly moves, that's how it feels in the car. Yeah, quite impressed. When you open the tailgate, there are two quite powerful LED lights giving you good illumination of the whole load area, a feature I definitely appreciated, especially setting up camp at night. Despite the massive 37 kilowatt-hour battery, I couldn't find any way to access power when the vehicle's locked. There's no obvious camping mode option, and I found no method to enable overnight charging capability for your gear. The V2L system provides 3.3 kilowatts through a 240 volt outlet, but only works with the vehicle ignition on, and requires a big heavy cable from the charging port to a power board. I couldn't find any way to charge gear via 240 volt while driving or overnight with the vehicle locked. Even the wireless charging pad wouldn't function when the car's off, and I found no setting to enable this despite the battery capacity. For touring, this seems like a missed opportunity, though I acknowledge there may be options I didn't discover in my limited time with the vehicle. The auxiliary loads can run off the main starter battery, which gets topped up by the EV battery, and you can operate a winch from the starter battery, but I couldn't locate any camping mode functionality. The way to open here is this button. Let's stop working. That's the problem with the electrical stuff. Look, it could be user error, but that's how I opened the tailgate. And it doesn't open anymore. So, I've got it open. It took me, I don't know, mucking around with that button here. Yeah, see, it definitely, there's a, now it doesn't work again. Shit, I should have left it open. I had to play around with that button on multiple occasions, and all of a sudden it did open, but now it doesn't again. Right next to our campsite was a 200-meter track dropping down steeply to a power line. You could see people had been playing around, plenty of deep cross-axle wombat holes. Perfect first test for the Canon Alpha. Definitely some decent size holes. So for a stock car, we won't be airing down much. It's reasonably steep here. This is a fairly easy obstacle, but keep in mind it's a stock car on road tires with road pressure. And as you can see in the cross angle holes here, people certainly have gotten stuck here and created wheel spin. Obviously down is always easy because you always get down one way or another. This was a service track to the power lines with a fairly tight turnaround at the bottom and a reasonably sharp drop-off. Nothing you want to misjudge. The turning circle proved quite good and the 360-degree cameras were genuinely useful here. That's something I'd appreciate having in the cruiser. Like always on video, the hill looks less steep than it actually is. We all expected I'd struggle getting back up and would need to engage the front and rear diff locks. Turns out the wheel travel and traction control handled it without any drama. Keep in mind, this was my first time off-road in this vehicle, so I'm still getting used to a throttle response. But I was genuinely surprised how capable the Canon Alpha is in stock form with full tire pressure. We made our way to a little play area in this national park to try a few more easy rock steps and easy water crossings. Again, driving that step unlocked, following my spotter, very important, unlocked, no problem. Oh, well. Can I go forward? It didn't sound too much.
Nah, you're not even at your beat pillar yet. Right up front. So we haven't got a great ramp over.
Yeah, ramp over. So a bit bigger tires would do there.
I think we just come to the left and then swing over.
Yeah. So we're trying a different line.
We found the limit of the
Yeah.
approach angle.
The approach angle did it, the ramp over did not. I found a rock ledge which gave me a good opportunity to see how much droop and wheel travel the car had, which you can see here. For a front IFS vehicle, I think it's pretty okay.
Alright, wheels in the air. A little bit more.
Yeah, that was a good little play here. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with the car. I mean, for a stock car on road tires, full pressure. I didn't use the lockers once, so that speaks for it. The ramp over angle is probably, yeah, the biggest hindrance for, you know, little very easy rock crawling. But I think with the 2-inch lift 33s, you would alleviate a lot of that. Some good underbody protection would also be helpful. But yeah, I'm really impressed. I really start to like these cars. I was a little surprised that the Alpha doesn't have terrain-specific modes like sand, rock or gravel. You only get 5 drive modes. 4H for complex conditions like mountains and shallow mud, 4L for steep climbs and maximum traction, plus Eco, Normal and Sport modes for on-road use. It's a fairly basic setup compared to some other manufacturers who offer more specialized terrain programming. Yeah, now driving these in the daylight, quite a windy road, fairly narrow. Yeah, the car really handles well, it steers well. very, feels very responsive, very connected, and it does what you expect it should do. The only thing, as I found out yesterday, is if you really put the kick down in, like here, it stays on the gas a little bit longer than you expect. So it keeps on accelerating for a little bit before it then backs off. But yeah, just something to get used to. Testing the Canon Alpha on these winding, narrow and sometimes steep roads gave it a proper workout. It felt very comfortable. Minimal body roll, well-sorted suspension that deals with small bumps and potholes effectively. The cabin stays fairly quiet, which is appreciated on long stretches. The seats are excellent with plenty of adjustment options, including heating, air conditioning, lumbar support, and a built-in massage feature that's actually useful on longer drives. I had a new Toyota Hilux Rogue for a week recently, and I have to say the Canon Alpha feels better on the road. At 80 km per hour on sealed roads, noise level sits around 60 decibels. Most modern utes average around 70 decibels, so that's a noticeable difference. Now we tried to camp at Stockton Beach for the night, but that is closed. Supposedly from the flood, so may as well be. So I called Ingenia 1 Mile Beach, and I just wonder why can't people just name things how it is, reception or whatever. So you now speak to a customer experience officer, and that is for a caravan park. Customer experience officer. But customer experience officer seems to be on holiday because no one answers the phone. So anyway, we're gonna drive there anyway and just hope that the customer experience officer lets us in. So driving to the beach entrance for Stockton Beach. Let's see whether we get stuck or not. Going to be airing down. Got 18-inch wheels, so I'm airing down, say, to 19 psi, and see how I go with that. And yeah, we shall see. I'm keen to see. Let me show you the battery. Yeah, 77% left, and you see it going out here. But silly me, I didn't think really. I put a lightweight cooking set in, and that doesn't work on the induction cooker, that aluminium stuff. But I'm having a camper's pantry, spaghetti bolognese, so I only need hot water, so I put the kettle on. PSI. So I had to figure out where 4 high is. 4 low, no problem. Okay, now we're in 4 high. Good. Yeah, the 4 high is in the modes, but otherwise there's nothing 4-wheel drive related with that modes. So I had to look that up because 4 low is down here at the buttons. So one thing I noticed, I have a tire pressure monitoring system, and that shows me low tire pressure now, which is fair enough, but I can't cycle now through the controls, so I can't see the temperature and any of the other available displays you have there. So I'm looking that up. The manual is important in a new vehicle. I usually don't read manuals, but I have to here. As I mentioned, I had no introduction to the vehicle and have been on the move since pickup, so I decided to drive it as most newcomers would, using 4-wheel drive, high and low, engaging lockers when needed. The manual doesn't explain how to disable traction control, which you'd normally do for sand driving. Without that information, I drove it as GWM apparently intended. Even in stock configuration, with tire pressures dropped to around 19 psi, I had no issues on the easier sections of Stockton Beach. However, the sand varies considerably and there are some very soft spots. After doing a turn and driving higher up the foreshore into softer sand, I got stuck when my forward momentum stopped. I've never been stuck in sand where I couldn't self-recover, so I started the usual rocking motion forward and backward. That's when I noticed something odd. Driving backwards in both four-wheel drive, high and low, all rearward momentum would stop and power to the rear wheels would cut out if there was sand built up behind the tires. It was impossible to get any wheel spin, which made reverse recovery difficult because sometimes you need a bit of controlled wheel spin while you're still moving backward, not digging in. I didn't have the same issue driving forward. There seems to be something in the programming that prevents drive to the wheels in reverse when you're slightly stuck. I tried this in four-wheel drive, low, high, and with both lockers engaged. Same result every time. So I stopped here and all of a sudden I'm slightly stuck. So I'm going to go a little bit back and rock a bit forward. So far I managed to always self-recover here. But that is really the tire size. If I had a bit bigger tires and
Are you trying to get it stuck or?
a bit lower pressure, yeah, now I have full throttle.
And it's not looking good.
That's full reverse throttle and nothing goes.
I think you might have found some quicksand, mate.
Front, okay, yeah, front, okay, I just
You're
managed.
flying more rear than front.
That was close. I nearly got stuck here, nearly. I managed to recreate this issue another 2 times during the day on different sections of sand. I've contacted GWM about it and I'm waiting for a response from their engineering team. Since getting home, I've done a bit more research and it appears to be a programming issue that's not uncommon with some modern four-wheel drive utes. I even managed to get the Alpha properly stuck because of this reversing issue. I was testing by reversing down a small ditch and couldn't reverse out because the backward momentum kept cutting out. The sand was too soft to drive forward either, so I needed a gentle snatch recovery. First time in my life I've needed recovery assistance in sand, but I'm blaming the car for this one. However, overall, I was quite impressed with how well the stock vehicle performed on the beach and dunes with road tires, 18-inch rims and a limited sidewall heights. Stockton can be treacherous with sections of very soft sand, so that's a decent result. Obviously, given the setup, it needs to be driven differently to my Land Cruiser Desert Tourer. It requires more throttle, momentum and more wheel spin, and I can't crawl dunes like I can in the Cruiser. But that's no surprise. The Cruiser runs 35s, which provide better flotation and traction in sand. I'd assume switching off traction control would make driving even easier, though it didn't seem to hinder me noticeably. With larger tires and more sidewall to air down further, it would perform even better in sand and make a capable touring vehicle. The reverse issue should be something GWM can rectify with a software update. We'll see if that happens. The only thing with the pedal shift is that, for example, we're going through some corners, or if I want to go around here now, then knowing where exactly forward and backwards in the gears is. I came to the conclusion that pedal shift isn't ideal for off-road driving when you need frequent steering corrections. Take the S-bend dunes in the Simpson Desert, where you're shifting gears mid-turn. With pedal shift, it becomes confusing because the forward and reverse pedals swap sides depending on your steering wheel position. When you're concentrating on picking a line through technical terrain, the last thing you need is to grab the wrong pedal because you've turned the wheel. Yeah, it's time to go home. I just looked on my fuel gauge and I have 60 kilometers left. We are the other end of Stockton, so back home now. But yeah, very successful day, I say. Good day, only stuck once in an excusable spot, but I'm thoroughly impressed by the car. I mean, for the average punter as a normal tourer, so far I can't see why not. One question I can't answer after 2 days is reliability and serviceability, especially as the vehicle ages or if you're in remote areas. I did some research, and while there are 107 GWM dealerships and service centers in Australia, they are all concentrated around major population centers. There's not a single dealership in Alice Springs or anywhere in Central Australia. The 7-year roadside assist sounds good on paper, but I'm not sure how effective it'll be in genuinely remote locations. From what I've seen in various Facebook groups, GWM's customer service appears reasonable and waiting times for repairs seem acceptable. But that's just internet research, not personal experience. To properly evaluate these vehicles' long-term prospects, you'd need to own one for several years. Longevity and reliability are unknowns at this stage. The energy consumption and trip statistics are confusing. Instead of standard trip A, B, C counters, you get fuel and energy usage over the last 10, 50, 100 kilometers, plus 7 and 30-day periods, but the daily trip computer resets automatically. You don't see actual figures either, just bar charts, which I found unhelpful. For what's essentially a computer on wheels, I didn't have enough time for thorough testing, but the vehicle doesn't seem as frugal as you'd expect from a hybrid. The display suggested I used up to 30 liters on the sand at one point, which would be quite high. However, the overall consumption for the sand driving day worked out to around 17 liters per 100 kilometers, which isn't too bad. Given I'm not getting paid for this review and have to cover my own fuel costs besides the full tank I received, I didn't feel like doing a proper brim-to-brim fuel test. There's very little monetary compensation for all the testing and filming. That's someone 6 foot sitting in the seat. So it is alright, the driver's seat is set for me. After 2 full days of testing, I'm genuinely impressed with how well the Canon Alpha drives, both on and off-road. It's not perfect, and there are areas for improvement, but overall, it seems to be a solid package that could work well for general touring with some basic modifications. A 2-inch lift, slightly bigger, more aggressive tires would help with the ramp over angle issues. A proper rear bar with integrated recovery points and a tow bar hitch would improve the departure angle. The current aftermarket style tow bar hangs too low and looks like an afterthought. The spare wheel could be relocated to a swing-away carrier on the rear bar, and if needed, you could probably fit a secondary fuel tank up top in the tub. The on-road manners are excellent, the off-road capability is genuinely impressive for a stock vehicle, and the hybrid system works better than I expected. 2 days is obviously far too short for any meaningful long-term assessment, but the initial impressions are positive. While I wouldn't rush out and buy one tomorrow, if GWM want to hand me one to see how it performs over the long haul, it's definitely a 4-wheel drive I'd be willing to give a proper shot. It would be interesting to see how someone could build one up as a serious tourer and how it would hold up to extended remote travel. So that wraps up my 2-day first impression of the Canon Alpha PHEV. If you found this useful, I'd appreciate a like and a share. It genuinely helps get these videos seen by people who might benefit from them. If you can spare it, please consider supporting the channel through Patreon or buy me a coffee. For the cost of a coffee or 2 each month, you help me stay independent and keep producing content like this without outside influence. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you along the tracks.